9 minutes past 10, Moromai. Welcome to Moghrey Jedoonee with Simon Clarke. And my guest this morning on the programme, Ruth Keggin. Good morning to you.
Moromai.
You are a Gaelic, Manx Gaelic singer and instrumentalist. And you've got plenty to tell us between now and 12 o'clock, I'm pretty sure. And some recordings that you've been doing as well. We talk about Cyndi Lauper singing I Drove All Night. You've come in from the south, I've come in from the north.
So far.
What a beautiful day today. And you're going to tell us later in the programme about your experiences singing on the cruise ships, haven't you?
Yeah. I've been on a couple of cruise ships recently. Well, the same one actually, but in Douglas, anchored up, and I did 2 performances, which was good. Yeah.
All right, we'll talk about that in detail. You're not looking too green on it anyway.
Yeah, thankfully. It was nice and calm.
But you have put yourself in the role of learning Manx songs and traditional ones as well. And how did this come about?
Well, I've always had a real love for traditional music and traditional and folk music. I grew up listening to an awful lot of that as a young child, and I think going up to places like the Hebrides and Ireland on holiday had a big effect, as well as obviously the Manx music of the island when I was growing up as well. So I think having that all around me, either at home listening to it on a CD player or just being able to go out to festivals and at home here when I was growing up, had a big impact. So I've always really loved trad music, and particularly songs is what I heard a lot of when I was growing up. So I think it's a sort of genre that's always kind of called to me. And it still does. It's definitely my favourite, of all genres. And I think, that's where it kind of came from, this sort of early formative experiences.
Right. Do you sing all your songs in Manx?
Not everything in Manx, no. I mean, most of it's in Manx, but I do sing in English as well, and obviously, my first language and all. And I do sing in English a bit as well, but mostly kind of in Manx, really. Yeah, I really enjoy singing in Manx.
Yeah, and were you lucky? Were you of the younger age where the Manx was learned at primary school, or was it something that come a little bit later for you?
Manx was available at primary school for me. I didn't learn it that much at that stage. I had a little bit and I picked it up through family members and things, but it wouldn't have been much more than a few phrases and words at that stage. I decided to learn Manx properly when I came back from university, came back to the island, and I think it's that thing of, I've spoken to a lot of people who feel this way. You grow up here and you take it a bit for granted because you don't realise how special it is until then you leave, and then you go somewhere else and you're like, oh my goodness, the Isle of Man's pretty awesome. And I think that's the thing. I was born here, grew up here, and left at 18. Went to a beautiful city first. I went to York, studied music there, and I had a great time there. But it was really exciting to tell people about the island. It sort of became a little bit of a walking tourist board, and told everyone about it and forced them all to watch Waking Ned.
Right.
You will sit and watch it. No,
how great Niarble is.
Yeah, exactly.
But you were up in Scotland though, were you, for a bit?
Well, I did a little bit in Scotland. That was kind of more that I'd travel up. Luckily, at the University of York, they were very kind and gave me a bursary to go up to the Royal Scottish Academy of Music and Drama, and it's now called the Royal Conservatoire of Scotland. It's in Glasgow, and they gave me a bursary to cover my lessons and transport to get up there. And I learned some Gaelic songs, so Scottish Gaelic, and so I was learning up there with a lady called Margaret Bennett, and it was a really good experience. But that's kind of, I was singing more in Scottish, and then I was like, well, why am I not speaking and singing in Manx? That's my it's the language of the island. So that's I kind of decided at that point, I need to learn this really. I wanted to learn and understand, signs and it's made me definitely feel closer to the island, having the Manx now, a stronger sense of identity too. Yeah.
Was there much difference between the Scottish Gaelic and the Manx language, or were the parts or grammar or something similar?
Well, I think I think that what was interesting was going up and actually starting to learn some of the Gaelic up at Sulmarostig, which is one of the Gaelic colleges there up in Skye in the Hebrides. I found that there was quite a few words that would mean something slightly different in Manx, so it was kind of, that threw me a little bit. And also the spelling system's completely different in Scottish and Irish Gaelic. It's completely different to Manx in the way that it looks. So that kind of I suppose the word is orthography, and I looked at it.
I'll be using big words
like
that.
Sorry, it's too early for that on a Sunday, isn't it? I'd look at it and I'd be like, oh, I don't know what that means. And then you hear it and you go, oh, yeah, you can hear the parallels and you understand that. And now, that I'd learnt Manx and stuff, it's I can now hear that, between Irish and Scottish and Manx and things. There's a lot of crossover, yeah.
Okay, good. Moghrey Jedoonee here on Manx Radio with Simon Clarke and my guest Ruth Keggin. And we were talking about your traditional music. You've had a few albums out as well. Sheer, Journey as well. Not going back that long, but
No.
you're quite experienced at the Manx traditional stuff now, aren't
Thank you. Yeah, I suppose over the last 4 years I've done 4 albums actually.
Wow.
Yeah, so
that's a lot of work in 4 years.
It is a lot of work.
When you listen to some of the top bands in the world where they've been writing an album for 6 years. Or whatever, isn't it?
Been with different bands, so I suppose that's why it's been a bit more. I did 2 solo albums, one released in 2014, Sheer, the one you just mentioned, and Turris, which is 2016. And then in between that was another album by with a group that is a Scottish singer, an Irish singer, and me, called Inchenga, which means one tongue. And this is the idea that actually the 3 Gaelics are they're all connected, basically. They're like sister languages, basically. So and so we did that. I think that came out in 2015, and we've just released another album with another band I'm in called Anish, and that was 2 weeks ago. So that's my 4th album.
We're going to hear some of that later on in the programme as well. And also later in the programme we'll be hearing you in conversation, because you were at the Isle of Man Art Festival, which happened last Bank Holiday weekend.
It happened all over the island. It was organised by the Creative Network and with support from Isle of Man Arts Council and Year of Art Ireland, and it was a really great event. I didn't get to see as much of it as I'd have liked to, really, because I was sort of around the Greneby area, but that was fantastic. They had so much going on, but there was people all over the island. It's really looked great. The directory of artists and things looked fab, so definitely a good event to put in your diary for next year.
And a very accomplished musician as well. Flautist, is it?
Oh yeah, I do play the flute and piano.
Is that
as
what
well
the
as
right
singing.
name is?
Flautist, yeah. Or if you're American, maybe flautist, I think. But
no flouting on
this. No
this.
flouting on this show.
Well, when did you? Do you play other instruments, or is the flute the main one?
I play flute and piano. Those were my kind of, as well as singing, my main studies. I went off to university to study the flute as my main study. I mean, when you do a music degree, you do more than playing as well. But obviously, that was my main instrument that I went and did. But actually, just unfortunately, before I went, I developed tendonitis in my left wrist. And that stopped me playing pretty much most of my first year.
Really?
Yeah. And it took a massive impact on my musical identity, because the impact of not being able to actually play, I sort of was thinking, well, what am I supposed to do with myself? I was obviously writing essays and learning all about music and things at the same time, but I couldn't be involved in symphony orchestra and all the different ensembles. And it was just purely, I'd always sung, but only kind of not sort of seriously. And someone heard me singing and said, I don't know why you're not singing. You should be singing. And I thought, well, I've always sung kind of traditional stuff. Is that okay to do at the university? And, maybe I could learn traditional stuff. So they were very supportive. They said, yeah, as long as you're doing all the, showing all the technique stuff, all the agility and everything else that, you would do in the classical, sort of Western classical tradition, that's fine with us. So then, I got into it in a big way then. And actually, it was a silver lining to the tendonitis cloud, because I found the thing that actually I love more than anything, which is singing. And, I guess I maybe wouldn't have done that if I hadn't developed
pushed
tendonitis.
that so far.
Yeah.
And it's funny, because I know that some people that have had, parts of their fingers happen to them, and things like that play instruments, and then they produce a unique sound because they can't quite reach they play them in a different way than other people. Not saying that's the same in the flute, but
No,
maybe
but
guitars and banjos,
you can alter things as well, I suppose. Like, if you were to have, well, I mean, I was just thinking about this the other day because one of my pupils, bless him, had hurt his right hand. He's broken a finger in his little finger quite badly, actually, and his right hand. So he can't use the piano, can't use it to play the piano at the moment. So he's just using his left hand when I'm teaching him the piano. And I was saying, well, there's actually quite a lot of people who can only use their left hand, because there might have been, I think, certainly in like the Second World War and things like that, people were getting their they have their hand blown off or something like that, and then they might have been a really good pianist before, and there was pieces that have just been written for solo one hand, and they're amazing. So I was showing him videos and saying, it's okay, I mean, your hand's going to heal, but you can do all these things in the meantime. You can strengthen your left hand, you can use it to kind of introduce different interesting chord patterns and all sorts of things. So yeah, I think it's amazing seeing how people adapt and develop. And I've heard there's an amazing deaf percussionist as well. I can't remember her name. I feel like it's Evelyn something, and she's amazing. And you think, just what people can do.
Well, that's it. Even the drummer of Def Leppard with this one hand, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Does that.
Amazing.
Absolutely was. I'm just picturing some fella playing the piano with his left hand, and then somebody asking how he's reaching that high note with this.
It's amazing. Just Google it, YouTube left-hand piano concertos and things like that. Amazing. Yeah.
Okay, Ruth Keggin's our guest on Moghrey Jedoonee. More after this. It's 10:31. Time to update you on the weather forecast and give you the Judy Chemist rota for today. The weather then dry with sunny spells. The light and variable wind will settle to the south or southwest this afternoon with highs of 15 Celsius. Then chilly overnight, with temperatures dipping down to 4 degrees. Now, look, tomorrow will be dry with sunny spells and light breezes. Afternoon temperatures tomorrow reaching 16 degrees Celsius. And now let's have Ruth Keggin reading the weather forecast in Manx.
Chirrim dú leis bodgel an brise, ligad a shalin greanach de hiet rish savara. Gech an fes is kechliach soit vai an jas, nishi a jas fasta dú, leis temprela smú 20 Celsius. Na samna as fod na hibi a chirrim leis chara as gay fes, temprela slú 20 Celsius. Chirrim is gial son an cúch smú merach leis temprela smú 60 na 60 Celsius. Chirrim jamurt a hige de ve bodgelach na samna sala.
Beautifully done.
Goramayad.
10:33 it is on a fine Sunday morning here in the Isle of Man. If you're listening, if you want to get in touch with the programme, all you need to do is send a text in 166177, or you can email studio@manxradio.com or mj at manxradio.com. They're the ways into the studio if you want to ask Ruth a question, and we'll put it to her as the morning goes on. We're here till 12 o'clock. But as the morning's gone on, we're going to play a couple of tracks from your latest album as well. But first of all, let's have a little bit about what was happening at the Isle of Man Arts Festival. Just tell us the background on the Arts Festival. What's it involve?
So the Art Festival happens every year. It used to be called WASAT, as you'll hear in the first interview that I do with Rosie Glassy. And now it's all over the island instead of just in the west. So, great event to go to.
All right, let's hear you now on your first crack with Rosie Glassy. Out Grenaby somewhere, were you?
Out Grenaby. I'm here at Grenaby Studios, just outside of Ballabeg, for the Isle of Man Arts Festival, and it's Bank Holiday Monday. The sun is shining, lots and lots of people around, and the smell of Manx roast coffee is drifting gently over the air from the ever-popular Flo the Coffee van, who's set up here over the weekend to sustain all those festival goers. I've come firstly to speak to Rosie Glassy of Ballallana Arts about the Isle of Man Art Festival. Rosie, I'm starting with you for two purposes, in fact, as you're not only an artist, but you're also massively instrumental in the organisation of this festival. So it was known as WASAT, the Western Open Studios Art Trail, for a number of years, but it's rebranded to Isle of Man Arts Festival. Could you explain why?
Right, yes. When it was WASAT, that was specifically because most of the studios and the venues were over in the west of the island, down to Dalby and what have you. But 3 years ago, we decided that it would be better to open it up to the rest of the island, and we rebranded as the Isle of Man Art Festival, using still the same artists that are members of the Creative Network, but it just seemed that it was time. There were people who were really interested in being able to visit different venues and see more of the artists' work across the island.
Fantastic. It's definitely something I've seen when driving around the island, and there's all these great signs everywhere as well saying everything's open. As well, we've got free entry this year, which is fantastic. It means that it's just really, really accessible for members of the public to be able to go. How did that come about?
The Isle of Man Arts Council have been hugely supportive all down the years. They've helped us every year by underwriting our event, and this year we asked them particularly could they help us to make it a free event so that it was completely inclusive. People with families, the older generation, everybody could just come to anyone. I think we have 24 venues this year, and they wouldn't have to pay a penny. They could come and see all the different workshops, the different studios, the pop-up galleries. Yes, the Arts Council have been fantastic, but also I have to put in a mention for the Year of Our Island, who gave us a grant towards the printing of our festival guides this year.
Now I'm just seeing what you've got in front of you. You've got lots and lots of things to show the general public at the moment, haven't you? Lots of exciting machines. Could you tell us a little bit about maybe a couple of the machines and different things that you've got going on here at Ballylonna Arts?
Yes, I work predominantly with engraving, and I engrave a lot of stone and some wood, but I've recently bought myself a new toy, a brand new laser etching machine, which enables me to do some quite exciting things like boxes with wooden hinges, which are really fabulous. And I've started doing some plaster casts, botanical plaster casts, so that I'm using real leaves and flowers and producing 3D pieces of plaster artwork, which really they give you a wow moment when you reveal them from the clay. And I'm going to be running courses throughout the summer, so keep your eyes peeled on Ballylonna Arts webpage.
We absolutely will do. Thank you so much, Rosie. I'm just looking at all your things here and they really are beautiful. So we'll go and speak to some other artists around Grenaby in just a moment.
There you go. That was you, Ruth, talking to Rosie Glassy. And it's intriguing because art can take anything, can't it?
It can, yeah. And you see such a wide variety of art in the art festival, and it's really great to see lots of people working in different mediums. So yeah, it's a great event to go to. Put it in your diaries for next year.
And the technology that's about now, the laser things and everything.
Yeah. Rosie was talking about the laser machine that she has, but she's also got a really amazing foil printing one as well, which is great. So that's really versatile too. So she's got lots of different really cool machines.
Oh, right. Yeah. Be able to imprint something of art after you've cooked the Christmas dinner then with the foil.
Well, potentially. yeah.
All right, Ruth Keggin, our guest on Moghrey Jedoonee this morning. It's coming up to 18 minutes before 11 o'clock here on Manx Radio. Let me tell you about Sunday Opinion today, just after the 12 midday news. This week, as the charity marks its 40th year, Roger will be finding out more about the work of the addiction charity Motivate. He'll be joined in the studio by director Thea Ozenturk and deputy directors Kay Mulcreast and Lindsay Smart. They'll also be taking a closer look at the recent report published by the charity Understanding Alcohol and Substance Misuse in Older People on the Isle of Man, a scoping study. That's all on Sunday Opinion with Roger Watterson just after the 12 midday news today, and then Roger presents the Manor Line from 1:15 through until 2 o'clock. But let's have some Manx music now, Ruth, and this is from your latest solo album, this one, isn't it?
Yeah, latest album with a band rather than a solo one, so it's quite a lot of instrumental on this, but this is called Super 16.
Is it?
Yeah, I think so.
No, it's not.
Oh, is this Erin Agrania?
Yeah.
Sorry, got my wires crossed there.
No, I haven't got that one ready yet.
That's okay, no worries. So this is by Bob Carswell, so it's a totally different thing. This is a very different vibe. This is all about sunrise, and the words are very appropriate for today because it's, beautiful song.
Well, I must say, I'm not being creepy. That is beautiful. Really.
Thank you.
That really is nice. That's your voice just comes out so pure on your records, which is nice. It's not drowned out by 20 instruments like sort of a lot of the modern productions are, isn't it?
Thank you. We try and keep it as simple as possible. That one's just got me a guitarist and a double bassist, and that's it. And with the post-production side of things, don't compress things too much, and don't add too many things onto it. Just keep it simple and acoustic as possible.
Yeah, and
Sounding,
that track was called
Irina Grania, which means sunrise. It's by Bob Carswell. So the words of that, I think, are just particularly applicable for today, because the last two lines of that of the song is Chas yn y Grania ons man yn fegfin, tyn cheer as a chyn and layak fe, and it's basically saying heat of the sun on dear little Mannan, or the Isle of Man, the land and the sea lie at rest, and it's talking about the summer's coming to the land that I love and things like this, and it's just beautiful. It's got all the imagery in it. It's really, really poetic. It's a beautiful song.
Now you've been on a lot of the you can talk like that here if you want. You've been on a lot of the BBC programmes as well.
I have. I've done a bit on various radio stations, and I did a bit on television as well. I've done presented a feature, just about a 5-minute segment on BBC Two television for Coast, all about Manannan, because they wanted it particularly about Manannan. So they sort of said, right, we want you to do it about Manannan. And it was very strange because I'd been approached to do that, and I'd just been at the British Library in London researching Manannan for a completely different project, and I was like, this is weird, serendipitous, my mind was full of Manannan, and then I was reading about it, and then I've done stuff on BBC Alapa, which is the Scottish Gaelic channel, did a live set at Celtic Connections and interviewed and bits on radio and stuff, so it's all good fun.
Radio 3?
Yeah, Radio 3 and Radio Wales and various things as well. Yeah, it's been really lovely to go and chat and, talk the hind leg off the donkey and all of that jazz.
What about working with the Coast team on television? I know that I've been involved with some television recordings before, and a lot of faffing about with it compared to us. We just sit here and
there is, just kind of get on with it, really. Yeah, I mean, it was a lot. For a 5-minute segment, it was like about a day and a half or something, because they wanted to go to different places. We had to walk up South Barrule because, that's sort of where he was supposed to, is supposed to reside, is sort of his Manannan's sort of, domicile. one of them. So the summit of South Barrule. So we had to go up and down, and while they filmed, and there was only actually one cameraman. So he was both the producer and the cameraman, and then they had the researcher who was sort of holding the boom. So it looks like there's been about a team of 5 or 6 cameramen, but it was just one guy called Luke, and he was the guy following me around. So he was either saying, oh, can you just walk up South Barrule again? I just want to film your feet. Okay, I'm just getting very tired, been up and down it about sort of 6 or 7 times by this point, and went off to Niarbel and things as well, and it was a good experience. I really enjoyed it.
Good. All right. Thank you very much. We've got plenty to come on this morning. 6 minutes before 11 o'clock. We've got another interview from your trip to the Isle of Man Arts Festival, Ruth.
Yeah, indeed. I was talking to Mark Boyd this time, the photographer. All will become clear. I'm sitting down now on a very sunny table next to Mark Boyd. Now, Mark, you're not actually based at Grenaby Studios yourself. Where actually are you based? You never seem to be in one place, travelling the world and doing some amazing photography. Mark is a fantastic photographer and has won many awards, in fact. I'm just sitting looking at some of his photography outside of the studio where he set up a display. So, Mark, where have you been most recently?
Laxey.
And what were you doing in Laxey?
I was photographing a wedding. But if you're looking further afield, Patagonia. Hitched, camped around Patagonia for about 2 months.
Fantastic, yes. So you've got a lot of your images of the Isle of Man here on display outside of Grenaby Studios and inside as well, where we do have a lot of your photography on permanent display in the studio shop here. So how has the festival been for you?
It's been tremendous. The weather's been great. It's been fantastic being able to display the work outside, the black and whites against a nice old stone building. Inside, it's great, got the colours in there, and you're with other artisans, crafty people who make amazing stuff. So, I mean, people are coming in, they're seeing photography, they're seeing wood turning, they're seeing jewellery, they're seeing homemade candles, soaps, everything. It's fantastic. It's just a great place to be.
Absolutely. So if you go inside the Grenaby Studios shop, you'll see things from Breeze Candles, Little Tree Soaps, Laxey Woolen Mills, just to mention a few names, and fantastic array of Manx-made gifts if you need to find anything for that special someone.
There you go. Mark Boyd, you were talking to there, Ruth.
I was indeed.
He's a character by the sound of it.
He's great, yeah. When I asked him, where have you been most recently? And he answered Laxey, or that. Cheers, Mark.
Well,
Thanks.
it's a good one
But
for the
it's true.
Manx.
He had. As well as being a fantastic photographer, he's also a great yoga teacher as well.
Really?
So, yeah. Keep an eye out for his classes because they're really, really good. Just got a lot around actually, around the island. So.
Good. All right, you're going to stay with us till 12
I am.
o'clock. Good. Right, today with sunny spells, the light and variable wind will settle to the south or southwest this afternoon with highs of 15. Then chilly overnight with temperatures down to 4 degrees Celsius. The outlook tomorrow will be dry with sunny spells and light breezes. Afternoon temperatures tomorrow reaching 16 degrees. Much of Tuesday will be dry with some sunshine, then thickening cloud will bring the risk of some patchy light rain during Tuesday afternoon. Top temperatures of 17 with a light southwest wind turning northwest and freshening during the evening. Let's hear that in Manx now with Ruth.
Turim dú leis bodgel and breja ligad a shal and grianach de hit rish savara. Geich yn fes as cachliach soit fain jas na jas fast dú leis temprelus mú 12 Celsius. Na samna as fud na hi be a chirim leis jara as gei fes. Temprelus slú 4 Celsius. Chirim as gial son an cúsnú merich leis temprelus smú 6 na 7 Celsius. Chirim jamurt a chige de vil bodgelach na samna sale.
And Ruth Keggin is my guest for this hour as well on the programme. Enjoying yourself?
I am. I'm having a great time. Cup
Good.
of tea.
I
Nice
got a
bit
cup of
chat
tea
off,
now.
Off air, yeah.
You've put more milk in yours. I'm surprised.
I have. It was a bit too strong for me, so I put some milk in it. Yeah.
Dear. Proper Manx tea. You wouldn't be able to move the spoon in it hardly, will you? It's 10 past 11. We've got some more music from you coming up on the programme as well later on. But your trip around the Isle of Man Arts Festival, the bank holiday weekend, Claire Pearce.
Another artist at Grenaby Studios, yeah. So I was sort of interviewing a few people who are based at Grenaby Studios on the Isle of Man Arts Festival weekend, yeah. And good to speak to Claire Pearce. She's a jewellery designer.
All right.
I've come across the yard at Grenaby Studios at the Isle of Man Art Festival to come and speak to Claire Pearce of Elemental. Elemental create ethical and sustainable jewellery from recycled silver and gold. And I wanted to speak to Claire a little bit about her background. Claire, where did you grow up?
I'm actually from Ramsey, so yeah, Manx born and bred, and then I spent the best part of the last 20 years on and off Ireland, travelling with my husband's job. And during that time, I retrained, following my passion for art and design, and learnt silversmithing. Very luckily, I was very lucky. I got to do some of that out in the United States initially, and then the biggest part, I think, and the biggest influence for me was when I spent 2.5 years in Denmark, just outside Copenhagen, which is known for their amazing design and everything else, and the quality and beauty of simplicity. And I think I just went from there, and then finished off in Scotland, finished my training there, which gave me, of course, an added Celtic feel, which was already sort of coming through because of my Manx work anyway. And then back to the island, here to Grenaby Studios.
And Claire is hugely successful with her jewellery. Everywhere I go, whether I'm performing on island or off island, people are always going, where is your jewellery from? And more recently, I have to say, Claire, people don't even ask me that question now because they know where it's from. They say, ooh, you're wearing some Elemental earrings or Elemental necklace. And Claire, you've got a few brilliant different collections. You've got the Droplet collection,
yes,
which we photographed with the fantastic Mr. Boyd, who's just sitting behind us. And we've also got the organic collection that you've created.
Yeah, organic's just very much more just ebb and flow. It's like very simple lines, but I allow the silver to kind of fuse and flow under its own will a little bit. So it just gives those interesting shapes that you can't replicate. So it's just a bit more natural, really.
I think that's the really amazing thing about your work, actually, is that nature seems to be very much at the heart of it. it, whether it's the organic sort of ebb and flow of the style, where the silver takes its own, shapes, or whether it's maybe even looking at the sea for inspiration.
Absolutely, I do have a lot of sea-themed pieces. I mean, we can't help it living on an island like, as beautiful as here. No matter where you go on the beaches here, you see interesting shells, interesting textures, the light, the colours. It's just, it's always been an inspiration for me, I think, and you can see that in my work. Definitely heavily sea-themed there.
And what you were saying about living in Denmark and in Scotland as well, I think has maybe come through quite a lot in your latest designs. So you've got a new collection called the Strata Collection, which, if we're just going to describe for some of the listeners, because they obviously can't see it, because being late radio listeners, it's just beautiful, contemporary, clean lines, minimal, and absolutely gorgeous. I really love it. I've got my eye on a few pieces. So that was just launched this weekend, wasn't it?
It was, yeah. I planned the launch so it coincided with the art festival weekend. So again, it's using ethically sourced, recycled silver and some elements of gold in there too. But this time I've gone for more clean lines rather than the more organic flowing lines. It's still organic and contemporary in that way, but it's definitely a little more simpler, simple, elegant, I think.
Yeah, all of Claire's beautiful jewellery can be found up at Grenaby Studios, open 10 a.m. till 4 p.m. on Fridays and Saturdays, and is well worth checking out. Thank you so much. Guramayad, Claire.
There we are, Claire Pearce you were talking to there. Isn't that amazing what she can do with some recycled bits and pieces as well?
Yeah, absolutely. And the fact that she's able to take, different sort of sea shells and things that she's collected on the shores of the island and turn them into these tangible, everlasting, immortal pieces of silver that really, kind of reflect our island life. It's amazing. And so there's more to her than just the sea life jewellery. She's got all these different collections, but her stuff's definitely is beautiful. It's definitely worth going and checking out. I was just giving you some tips on how to get there. Go and have a look.
I'll have a look for some new earrings from myself.
Yeah, she does cufflinks too.
Oh, right, okay. Yep. But it is that is art, though, isn't it? People just doing, and I suppose it's the same in music, isn't it? You listen to a song, you do it your own way, and it's unique in a way, isn't it?
There's all sorts of different music out there, isn't there? There's just innumerable genres. Like, you're trying to sort of, I always find it hard to actually just even put a label on what you do, and people say, "Oh, what type of music do you do?" And it's sometimes quite hard to even define it, in that way. You sort of think, well, do I want to put it in a box and stick a label on it, So, yeah, there's all sorts of stuff out there.
I've got to tell you about this. Somebody has texted in and said we've had 3 peacocks land on our balcony at Key West Apartments and Douglas this morning, and they're still on the roof of the building. So if you know anything about this, or you keep peacocks, there's 3 of them. So whether they've flown in to the island just for, I don't know how far they can fly.
Do peacocks fly in to the island?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I doubt it, but 3 of them together is fairly unique.
They could have come from, there's a place that has peacocks over on the east, over near oh gosh, I've forgotten. Well, over in sort of Santon sort of area.
4.
Yeah,
no pressure.
Completely forgotten. Port Soderick sort of area. I think there's some peacocks over nearish there, so maybe they came
it's
from
unusual.
there.
Well, they must have got on the roof.
Well, maybe they're sunbathing. It's quite a nice day.
It is a nice day. Let's have some more from the Isle of Man Arts Festival then. You had a chat with a fellow called Graham Hall.
I did. Lovely Graham from Glenchass. I've wandered into Graham Hall of Art Forms from Nature's studio up at the Grenaby Studios here to talk to him about what he does. Graham works with wood and makes beautiful items. Some of them are sculptures, some of them are vessels and bowls and platters, and he also does wood turning lessons, don't you, Graham? So you've had a pretty busy diary. You're pretty much booked up, aren't you, at the moment? Not completely, but you've got quite a busy few weeks ahead of you anyway.
Yes, there's a few folks booked in and there's a lot of interest. It's kind of giving people the experience of working with wood, and some of them you never see them again, and some of them might never take a wood turning, but they've got a great experience to go home with some pieces they've made themselves, and they have a great day.
Yeah.
And I think that's really nice. It's a lovely thing to do. It's good company. I enjoy their company. I get to meet new people, and they get to do, and in return they get to learn how to do something different.
I think that's a really important thing, isn't it? Sort of experiences, they're becoming ever increasingly popular to give as gifts, aren't they? So instead of maybe something physical, you might give someone the experience of learning something. It just reminds me of that proverb. It's like, if you give a man a fish, he'll eat for a day, but if you teach him how to fish, he'll eat for a lifetime. Now, they might not all make wooden bowls for a lifetime, as you say, but that experience will stay with them. So I think what you're doing is fantastic, and I've just interrupted you in the middle of a turning lesson. I'm so sorry. So I'll be quick, but I just wanted to ask you, how have your impressions of the Isle of Man Art Festival been this bank holiday? Have you enjoyed it? Have you found it good?
It's been great. There's been some fantastic people through the door, lots of interest, lots of people around the place, and on Saturday it was really busy. Yesterday we had to shut down, as you know, because of the cycle race, and we closed in the afternoon. And today it's been constant with people coming through the door and enjoying themselves. And people are sitting in the sunshine, and birds are singing.
Yeah.
It's sunny. It's just absolutely beautiful today. What a great day to have a festival on.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Gurmayad, Graham. It's really lovely to speak to you, and hope that the rest of your wood turning lesson goes well.
It's funny when you do radio, Ruth, the different voices you get to hear, because often you're talking to people on ISDN lines or something like that from somewhere else in the UK or parts of the world.
Yeah.
And when you listen to radio and you can't actually see anybody, the voices are just so unique. I love different voices.
It's really interesting to see, and sometimes, if you've heard someone on the radio for years and you've not actually seen a picture of them, you've got this picture of what they look like in your mind, and then you actually see a picture of them and they're maybe totally different to what you'd expected. Yeah, I don't know, it's an interesting thing, as their voices are very kind of, evocative, and it's interesting to hear different people's accents. You get a lot more, because as you say, you've got no sense of seeing, so you have to listen to, more clearly. Yeah.
Graham Hall, that was. And
again, lovely Graham.
These people that are all involved in different types of art, which is, and obviously when you see some of the art that's displayed at exhibitions across the world, you look at some of it and people go, yeah, it's art, don't they? And this day and age, sort of anything goes in a way, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I suppose I'm not a visual artist, so I'd kind of, this is not my domain to be able to say what is and what isn't art. But I know certainly in the music world that obviously, where I studied at York was very liberal and very kind of modern. There was a lot of modern music as well as very early sort of Baroque music. And I sort of heard some pretty out there things while I was there, some pretty random stuff, if I'm honest. And so I'm sure it's in the same in the visual arts world, that it as I say, there's a massive scope for what is considered art and things like that. So it's a big, debate, isn't it? Yeah.
Have you got quite a wide musical interest?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, a big eclectic kind of taste, really. I mean, I grew up, I sang in the Manx Youth Choir, sort of with Graham Kirkland, and he was the sort of musical director at that point, and and also the Manx Youth Orchestra. I grew up with that, with a load of fantastic musicians, sort of my peers, and it was great. I exposed to an awful lot of music then, obviously a lot when I was growing up and listening to music and learning the flute and the piano and things. So I've got a real kind of interest in classical sort of, the whole Western classical tradition. But I also played gamelan when I was at the University of York, which is an Indonesian percussion kind of orchestra, which was it was the first, I think, in the whole of the UK to come over, because they cost a lot of money. I think it's sort of millions, massive gongs and things like that, brought over from Indonesia. So a lot of interesting world music and obviously the traditional stuff. But I'll listen to Radio 1 and I'll listen to, everything really. As long as it's done well. Yeah, I think, you can... big eclectic taste, yeah.
Yeah, good. 11:33, the update on the weather forecast in English and in Manx. For you, dry today with sunny spells. The light and variable wind will settle to the south or southwest this afternoon with highs of 15. Then chilly overnight, I'm afraid, with temperatures tipping down to 4 degrees.
Chirim dú leis bodlin brisha liga de shalin grianach de hit rish savara. Gech and fairs as cachliach soitvaing jas na she jas fastadu lesh temperelas smoo quegjeg Celsius. Na samna as fudnahi be a chirim lesh Chiara as gefers, temperelas slú chia Celsius. Chirim as gial son in cúsmú merach leis temperelas smú sé jeg na 60 Celsius. Chirim jemurt ach hige de ve bodgelach na samna sale.
The Nation Station, Manx Radio.
It certainly is. Moghrey Jedoonee with Simon Clarke and my guest this morning on the programme, Ruth Keggin, renowned traditional music singer and flautist as well. And where's it took you around the world?
Oh, various places around Europe. I've toured in Norway, in the Lofoten Islands, in the Arctic Circle, which was an amazing experience. Did a 2-week tour there, sort of a government scheme that they have in Norway, where they I think it's up to 6 professional performances that every school child in Norway is enabled to see, because they really just believe in feeding children's souls with music and art and things, which I think is fantastic. So been out there with a band, been in France and Italy and Hungary and Ireland and around the UK and various things, doing performances, lectures as well, and workshops. Did a 3-hour lecture most recently about the Isle of Man in Edinburgh International Harp Festival, which was exciting.
Oh,
yeah, I mean, well, there was a little bit of a break. Myself and a harpist called Rachel Hare, who comes over once a month to teach harp on the island. She's over this weekend, in fact. We delivered it because Rachel was an instrumental part, no pun intended, of the harp festival, and the focus was on the Isle of Man this year. So they asked us to deliver a workshop about the island. So it was three hours long. I baked some bonnig, which went down well.
Are you a master cook?
I love cooking and baking, yeah, and this bonnig recipe is sort of, it was passed on to my mum actually from a family friend who used to be a baker in Peel. He sadly passed away now, but it's delicious. But it's one of those things that bonnig is different for every person, isn't it?
Is it a secret recipe?
No, I actually gave it. I checked with my mum. I said, "Can I give it to anyone?" And they asked, and all of the participants of the the workshop lecture thing, all of them wanted it. So I was there at the end going, and this many ounces of this and this many ounces of that and stuff. And they were all there writing it down. So they've taken it off to their different areas across the world because they were all very international.
They weren't going, oh, how many grams is that?
No, I think it was, no, they were all quite happy with ounces and pounds, actually. Yeah. I've always worked in that, so.
Good. All right, let's have another track from yourself and your latest band that you're involved with, Anish.
Yeah, a Nish. So we used to be known as Nish as Rish. We just changed it to a Nish. We felt it was a bit more snappy, and it kind of reflected the fact we don't really call ourselves that full name anyway, so we just changed it to a shorter thing. Nish is the word for Manx in... Nish is not the word for Manx. Nish is the word for now in Manx.
Right.
But it's also a very popular Indian first name. I think people like Nish Kumar, the comedian, so we thought if we called ourselves just Nish, it'd be quite hard to find us. So we've gone for a Nish, which is more phonetic spelling of the way you'd say it in Ireland or Scotland for now. This track is called Red na Fáilín, after the beautiful coastal walk around the island, and it's written by fellow Manxie and member of my band, Carl Kramer.
Yeah, we'll have a listen to that in a second, but just tell us about your band. 5, innit?
I will, yeah. There's 5 of us, yeah. So 2 of us from the island, so Carl and myself. We met at the youth orchestra years ago when we were about 13 or 14. He was a percussionist at the time, but plays guitar as well. And then we both went to York to study music, and there we met a double bassist called Vanessa Hutchinson. Well, she was Mick William, but she's now married, from Edinburgh. And we met a violinist called Anna Goldbeck-Wood from Cambridge, and we met a guitarist called David Pearce from Manchester. So we've all got quite different backgrounds, and it really shines through in the music, although this is a bit more of a kind of traditional sounding track, but there's elements of kind of jazz and rock and all sorts of in our music, generally speaking. It's quite hard to do that. I was saying about labels before. There's definitely not one I want to put a label on this band. It's very hard to define what we are, but yeah.
The Way of the Gull, Red na Fáilín, and Ruth Keggin with your band Anish.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, that was written by Carl Kramer, my fellow bandmate, who is from the island, and inspired by walking part of the coastal footpath that we know and love so well.
Yeah, and what are you up to at the moment? Obviously, you've just got the album done. Did that take forever, or pretty good, really, to get on with things?
It was a lot of work, and it was mostly done by myself and Carl. But that is, although it was a lot of work and sort of took up more kind of time, our poor partners are kind of, long suffering. It has meant that we've now got an awful lot of experience. This is the sort of third album that I've kind of helped produce, so it's for me now it gets a lot easier and quicker every time I kind of work on an album. So it's all good life experience, yeah. But we've got a fair amount coming up actually. We did the album launch at Noah Bakehouse the night before. We'd been in York as well, at the University of York, doing a sort of UK launch as it were, and then we did the Manx one, and we did a family concert, and so it was an action-packed couple of days. It was like woo, with flights and stuff. And we've been invited by Lorient, actually, the Inter-Celtic Festival in Lorient. They got in touch and said, we've heard your music, we'd really like you to come and play. So that'll be exciting. So we're going off for about 4 days to go and play, into Brittany, so it'll be lovely,
Brilliant. Okay, good luck with that. Right, we got one more interview to do very shortly with Nicola Dixon at the Isle of Man Arts Festival. But firstly, we've got to take this. It's 11:45. Welcome back. It's coming up to 12 minutes before 12 o'clock. Let me tell you about Sunday Opinion today, just after the 12 midday news. And this week, as the charity marks its 40th year, Roger Watterson will be finding out more about the work of the addiction charity Motivate. He'll be joined in the studio by director Thea Ozenturk and deputy directors Kay Mulcrease and Lindsay Smart. They'll also be taking a closer look at a recent report published by the charity Understanding Alcohol and Substance Misuse in Older People on the Isle of Man, a scoping study. Yes, all after the 12 midday news on Sunday Opinion with Roger Watterson, then the man in line from 1:15 until 2 o'clock. Let's get the final interview then with Ruth Keggin at the Isle of Man Arts Festival, and let's find out who she caught up with next.
Nicola Dixon is a familiar face and name in the art scene on the Isle of Man. Her beautiful and distinctive prints and originals have been gracing walls of Manx homes and her ever popular greeting cards for a number of years. But Nicola has, in recent months, expanded the medium in which her work can be found. From designing on the small scale, with the Green Man stamps for the Isle of Man Post Office, to much larger, with Archibald Knox-inspired sculptural steel panels in Peel in the Market Square. With plenty of ideas bubbling away in her brain, I wanted to ask Nicola about her latest venture, her designs on fabric. So Nick, I'm just outside your pod in Grenaby Studios, and the sun is beating down on us, and inside it's like a riot of colour. It's beautiful. And you've got a number of your designs that have been printed on fabric. Can you tell me how that came about, and just where you're going with it, maybe?
Well, it's a new game. I've always loved fabric, and I've always loved scarves. I've got a major cut scarf collection, and I wanted to make print scarves, and so I started investigating production processes, and I found this website where you can get like 1/4 metre of fabric printed, and it's in the UK. So I just started doing it and got a bit carried away.
Well, I have to say there was a certain furore around a certain idea that you had, and you posted on social media on your artist page, and that was leggings, and it went crazy. It just was a massive buzz around them. So leggings, are you thinking of maybe some of your designs in leggings?
I think it has to happen really, because it's another company I've found that make clothing. You put your design on the clothing, and they have a way of enabling artists to do this so that it is okay for us to sell it on. And all designs, and it's like you can do one-off ones, or you can do multiple ones. You can you put your own label in the back of it. The world's my oyster catcher.
Very good, very good. Gintamai, and I mean, I can see there's a number of prototype, or not so much prototype, but sort of samples that people can order from leggings. They're covered with triscles, they're covered with those aforementioned oyster catchers, and I could imagine with so many yogis and Pilates doers on the island, that this would be super, super popular. And you're also wearing one of your own T-shirts with stripes on. They look fantastic, Nick. So it's been a really busy weekend here. It's been absolutely crammed during the time I've been here. The car park's full. The sun, as I say, is shining down so brightly, and it's just brought all the people out.
Yeah.
How's your experience of the festival been?
It's always a delight. It's great, and it's so lovely returning people coming, people I haven't met before, people who know my work but haven't met me before has been great. And also the enthusiasm for the Manx art, because it's really important on the island, and there's a lot of great artists here, and it's just great to give them the showcase. So and it's like thanks to all the sponsors for making this available and for free, because it's brilliant. It's great.
We heard from Rosie before, just saying a big thanks to the Isle of Man Arts Council, who have been very supportive and enabled this to be a free event, which I think is so important.
And it's Year of Our Island as well, isn't it?
Absolutely, Year of Our Island as well, and it's really showcased the creative industries on the Isle of Man, which is flourishing, and it's good for people to know about. So thank you for being a massive instrumental part of that, Nicola. It's lovely to chat to you. Guramayyad.
We are, Ruth, talking to Nicola Dixon at the Isle of Man Art Festival, and it sounded a really great event.
It was really good, and I think the weather kind of made it really. It was a little bit misty, if you remember, sort of last weekend. It was sort of a bit strange in different parts of the island. It was hot, and in other parts it was misty and cold. But it cleared up in Greneby. I think it kind of Saturday. Sunday. It got like nice and sunny, and it was good. Yeah.
But it just shows what talent is on the island that maybe a lot of people don't know about.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we do need to champion the creative industries more than we are doing, because it is, it's important to the economy, and it's also, it's a way of drawing people in, and helps with tourism and things as well, and just helps people value what they have as well.
Okay, so tours of Australia and New Zealand coming up for you and Anish.
I wish. That'd be so good, wouldn't it?
One step at a time. Laurie on first.
Yeah, Laurie on first. But, if anyone wants us to come to, Australasia, we would definitely jump at that chance. We did get asked once before, but they were like, you'd have to pay for yourselves to get there. I was like, maybe not.
Fair problem.
Nah.
Well, it's been fascinating having you on the programme, Ruth.
Thanks,
it's great, always great to play one or two of your tracks occasionally on the programme, but to sit with you in person, it's a great honour as well. And you're just such a natural person, and I think it comes out in your singing and your music as well.
Oh, well, thank you very much, Guramayyad. It's been really nice to chat to you on the show, and it's always nice to come to Manx Radio and just sort of have a little chat.
Yeah, and of course your chats. Thank you for your interviews that you did as well at the Isle of Man Art Festival as well. Some interesting people, and the interesting things that they do in I suppose in their spare time, a lot of them.
Well, you say that, but I think a few of them are full time. Yeah. So Claire Pearce is full time, and Nicola Dixon is full time, and So there are, and Mark Boyd, of course, as well. So I think that's the thing. People growing their business, and it's a great place to do that here. You've obviously got, you can have support from Department for Enterprise, and obviously the Isle of Man Arts Council and Culture Vannon and things are good to support people as well. And but with a lot of hard work as well, Claire and Nicola and Mark have done really well, and lots of others as well, of course, many others I haven't mentioned. Are
you going to don the leathers and play a set at one of the beer festival tents for the TT?
I'm afraid I'm away, actually. I'm not around for TT, so I'm afraid I can't, but maybe I did play the bass guitar for the first time ever live last night, which was just kind of filling in for somebody else who couldn't make it, and that was really fun, and I felt super cool, so
oh, well.
I need to get some cool points, so I was like, oh yeah.
Good stuff. Well, Guramayyad, and I wish you all the best with Anish and the new album as well, which is available from?
You can get it from the Lexicon, Bridge Bookshop, Manx National Heritage shops, and there'll be many others as well around the island, as well as if you want to buy it on the internet you can, but do go and support local.
Yeah, and any plans for more or different types?
More recordings?
Yeah.
I mean, I'd like to do. I would always like to do more. They are a huge amount of work. I mean, it's hundreds and hundreds of hours and so much legal stuff that actually you have to be kind of prepared to do that, and also be able to fund an album. We did this latest one by putting in a lot of our own money, but then we also did an Indiegogo campaign, which was basically for people to pre-order copies of the album, and then that gave us the capital to finish it. But you know, you're looking at several thousand to make an album, really. So right now, no, because there's nothing in the bank. But at some point, yeah, hopefully.
Lovely. Thank you for coming in to Moghrey Jedoonee this
You're
morning.
welcome. Thank
and say
you. Good
all
word.
the best with it all. It's been fascinating listening to it. Ruth Keggin.